Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Andrew, coming to you from the beautiful Carolinas. Today's topic is going to be verbal abuse and the narcissist. Think about that for a minute. Everyone, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. So first of all, what is verbal abuse? It is just what it means. It is when you or an individual is being berated, being called names, being put down, being invalidated, being screamed at, experiencing rage fits, being told that you won't amount to anything, and on and on and on. Verbal abuse is littered throughout the narcissistic relationships. It happens in person, it happens in texts, on phone calls, it happens in emails. Verbal abuse is not just the words that are coming out of your mouth. Many times it's written. It's the same point. You're being abused and you're hearing words that you should not be hearing. Keep this in mind. Verbal abuse, what it is it's something that when it is said to you, example, when you hear something demeaning from the narcissist, let's say something like, you will never amount to anything, or you're nothing without me, something like that. When you hear that, you can't unhear it. Just like in the videos I mentioned frequently, you can't unsee what you see, you can't unhear what you've heard. The trick, the key, the path here is to identify that if you are being verbally abused, you should not be in that relationship one day longer than you need to be. Because over time, this verbal abuse, there are so many different layers to this. One layer is you become accustomed to the behavior, i.e., when someone tells you something for the first time, let's say you're in a stable, healthy relationship with an individual and they do not verbally abuse you. They don't slip up. Maybe they make a mistake here and there, like we all do, but they're not berating you or tearing you down. When that happens, that's good. That means the two of you are headed in the same direction, at least that's my hope, and you are working towards common goals, etc. But when you're in a narcissistic relationship, it's quite the opposite. In the beginning of these relationships, usually they start off in the euphoric stage with everything being jubilation and puppies and rainbows and unicorns and just the best thing in the planet. And then once the narcissist has their dirty fangs sunken into you, that's when the tide turns. That's when you enter the devaluation stage and or the narcissistic fog, as I call it, when you're trying to get yourself back to that euphoric stage. We now know these things. Point being, when you're in the devaluation stage, that is when you begin to tolerate the poor behavior more and more and more. And verbal abuse is certainly one of these aspects of the toleration that you are displaying towards the narcissist. In other words, you're putting up with the poor behavior. And when you hear things over and over again, they begin to chip away at you insidiously. They begin to break you down. They begin to have you not believe in yourself. You begin to start to believe some of these things, not all of them, but some of them. And then when you hear these over and over again, and then let's say you have a conversation with this person who turns out to be the narcissist, and let's say it escalates a little bit, because usually the conversations with the narcissist, they go from a 1 to a 10. There's no middle ground. In other words, there's no healthy, stable communication, which would be a 1 on the scale of 1 to 10. They usually go right from a 1 to a 10, and you experience a rage fit, or you experience stonewalling, or being screamed at, or in this case, verbal abuse. When you experience these things, and you are accustomed to hearing certain words that tear you down from the narcissist, and then one time you don't hear them, you're like, wait, actually, I won there. That's good. They didn't say A, B, and C. Now, really pause on what I'm mentioning to you, because you have now been groomed. You are now becoming accustomed to hearing such toxicity, in other words, verbal abuse, that you're used to it. And when you don't hear it, you're like, wow, that's good. At least they're improving. No, that's not the case. The case is the narcissist turns it on and off whenever they want to. And verbal abuse is one of the ways they bully through life. They do this in the working relationships, in other words, in business. They do it with friendships. They do it with siblings, with neighbors, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandparents, romantic interests, people in communities, organizations. The verbal abuse is everywhere in the narcissistic relationship. And the key for this video is to get you to understand that you should not be tolerating it. Your expectations most likely have been diminished. In other words, what you used to think was a healthy, stable relationship that turned out to be the narcissistic relationship, your boundaries now have been devastated and crushed, and you have become accustomed to listening to the poor behavior, to tolerating the poor behavior, to experiencing the poor behavior. Let me zoom out for a minute and share a couple things with you. One, if you're in the toxic narcissistic relationship and you know that you're being verbally abused, I strongly suggest that you look for ways to exit and or not be present when the narcissist is trying to verbally abuse you, because you should not be consuming those words. This is a death by 1,000 paper cuts. it slowly creeps up on you, and before you know it, you will become a shell of yourself if you haven't already. The next thing is understand that, is it really proper behavior to being berated, to experiencing rage fits, to being put down, to be told that you'll never amount to anything, that you're nothing without them, and on and on and on? No, it's not. These kind of behaviors, they were built upon by the narcissist to keep you in a box, to keep you growing accustomed to the poor behavior. And remember, the narcissist many times will threaten you. Oh, I'm going to leave you if you don't do A, B, and C. I'm going to stop paying child support if you don't do X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to do this, this, or this for you. These are threats. They're also verbally abusing you. Think about it. They are trying to control you. They're trying to control how you think, what you do, what you can do, what you can't do, whom you communicate with. And remember this also, it's very important. When you are experiencing verbal abuse from the narcissist, there's an energy exchange there. The narcissist is hammering you, and they're using curse words or bad words to tear you down, and you are consuming these words. In other words, they are getting all the toxicity out of themselves, and it is going into you because you're listening to the words. The key is don't listen to the words. Don't be present if you can avoid it. And if the narcissist, if you realize they're going to experience, or they're going to start to throw a rage fit at you or blame shift you or whatever they're going to do, if you can, I would slowly exit that area, the proximity of the narcissist, or utilize gray rock, which has just become boring. Don't add fuel to the fire. Now, I understand each and every person's situation is different, and not everybody can do what I've just mentioned in the video here. I get it. The point is, each and every day that you are experiencing verbal abuse, it's chipping away at you, whether you know it or not. And over time, just like a drop of water coming out of a faucet into a bucket, over time that bucket will fill, and so too will you, with all of this verbal abuse adding up. Don't get accustomed to being belittled or berated or experiencing rage fits. Don't become accustomed to hearing toxic, negative words. If you notice on the channel, I frequently use positive, uplifting words. Yes, at times I have to illustrate how the toxicity of the narcissistic relationship can tear you down, and I will give illustrations, but in my day-to-day life, I do not use negative words. I choose to select my words wisely and to use them with caution and with care. And one of the reasons why I do that is because now, post-narcissistic relationship for myself, I've had to process so many things, heal childhood wounds, and understand that words are extremely powerful. And once said, you cannot take them back. I too experienced verbal abuse throughout the relationship. It slowly added up over time, and it would turn the littlest thing, example, not turning a light bulb off in the house, into the biggest thing, acting like it was the end of the world. And verbal abuse, let me tell you, is not a fun thing to go through, especially when you're living with a narcissist, because there's nowhere to go. Are you going to go to your bedroom and isolate yourself? Well, that's kind of what the narcissist wants, isn't it? Are you going to go outside for a walk? Well, what happens if you can't go outside for a walk? Are you going to go downstairs in the TV room? Well, perhaps that's not a good place to go because it's littered with all the items from the narcissist. Get the message here. Verbal abuse is something that people become accustomed to, and they downplay it, and they'll say things like this, like, oh, that's just so-and-so, it's no big deal, it's just who they are. Nonsense. You should not be tolerating poor behavior. And if this started for you, let's say your parents are narcissists, or one of them is and or was, and if they displayed this kind of behavior throughout your childhood, I can assure you that helped stage who you became, because perhaps it was tolerated in the household. Perhaps you too started using verbal abuse with other things. That is not a good path. The path of yours, and certainly mine, post-narcissistic relationship, is to add abundance and positivity to you, to drown out the negativity. Certainly verbal abuse, you shouldn't be tolerating that for 1 second. Another example, let's say you're trying to divorce the narcissist, and the narcissist just won't let you go. Happens each and every day. It's happening to hundreds of millions of people right now as I create this video. Point being, the narcissist again will try and hammer you and verbally abuse you and say A, B, and C. I'm not going to give illustrations there. Don't pay attention to the false narrative of the narcissist. What is happening here, if you are trying to get divorced, or if you recently were divorced, the narcissist is banking on you not getting the wisdom from my channel. They're banking on you not being smart. They're banking on you tolerating the poor behavior. In other words, the verbal abuse for this video. Don't do it. You are better than that. You're better than them. You are an abundant, beautiful, bright, shining light, and the narcissist wants to keep you down with them, vibrating low. By what? By verbally abusing you. So don't tolerate it. Don't put up with it for 1 more second. Verbal abuse is something that is not really in the limelight. What we tend to hear about is physical abuse and mental abuse and emotional abuse. Spiritual abuse is a whole different thing, but verbal abuse, I can assure you, it happens, and it is something that needs to be brought to the forefront, because whether it's a friend who just says something abusive to you and they say, oh, I was just joking. Well, are you an adult? If you are, you shouldn't be behaving that way, and that is abuse. If it's a spouse, where I already mentioned many illustrations of that, if it's a sibling or a romantic, if it's a sibling or a relative, they too should not be hiding under the guise of, oh, I was just joking, or it's no big thing, toughen up. Everyone else tolerates it, why can't you? No, that's not good. It's not proper. And if you made it this far in the video, most likely you are an empath and you have experienced verbal abuse. No longer should you be experiencing this. You should be removing people that are verbally abusing you, or maybe they're not verbally abusing you, but you are in the proximity of who they are verbally abusing. In other words, maybe you're part of an organization or a group, and a narcissist or some toxic individual is verbally abusing another, but you're consuming it, you're hearing it. You should not be hearing it. It doesn't benefit you. This is one of the reasons why I don't watch TV, movies, or anything like that. Let's put it that way. Any of those things, they don't benefit me. And if you're one of the people that has recently not been watching TV or other things, that's a good thing. Netflix is what I was going to try and say. I don't do any of those things anymore. I haven't done those in over 2.5 years. Point being is, you need to understand that you are the priority. You come first, second, and third. And if you are listening to verbal abuse, even if it's once a week, it's once a week too many. It really is. You should not be listening to anything like that. You've dealt with enough, more than enough, in the narcissistic relationship. This is your time now. So if you can, go no contact, block, remove all flying monkeys and people associated with the narcissist, and begin living your best life on the healing path. If you've already done that, understand you're the priority. You come first, second, and third, and that you need to make your own path. You need to fight for yourself. You need to become the best version of yourself. And if this is the first video you're ever consuming on narcissistic abuse, understand verbal abuse is real. It should not be tolerated. It is very serious. It will cut you to the core if you allow it to happen. Guys, that's the video. I hope you liked it. I loved doing it from the beautiful Carolinas. This is Andrew. Namaste. Have a great afternoon. Stay true, stay blessed. Continue to become awakened and aware, and understand you are the priority. You are an amazing individual. You are abundant. You're beautiful. You're blessed. You're resilient. You're courageous. You're strong. You have fortitude, and you have so much strength you have no idea. No matter where you are on the planet, you are not alone. God bless you. I love you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right. Bye, you guys.